Peace. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you back into another edition of the Five Playland. As always, I'm your five player. Haven't been doing videos of late because I've been having to do some shit around the house. I just finished doing a backsplash. I'm actually in the kitchen. I will show you, but it still looks like shit. But one of the topics I like to talk most about is boxing, and there's just not much going on in the boxing world that I'm like gonna be going above and beyond for, like to report about, because boxing is whack right now. Yeah, I did watch the Canelo Billy Joe fight. It wasn't much. I mean, like at first I thought that Billy Joe may have taken a dive. Man, my allergies are through the roof today. But it was an eye fight, I guess. But want to report regarding some comments made by Roy Jones Jr. stating that Errol Spence hasn't accomplished much in his career. I'm not sure if that just came out this weekend, because I think I heard like something similar to Roy Jones saying that in the past. So maybe it resurged again, or maybe he said it twice. Once in the past and once now. But who gives a shit? I mean, it's the news now, and a lot of like channels that I listen to are reporting about it. And a lot of channels are getting butthurt. But this only happens like with one faction of fans nowadays, where you have a combination of a boxer who's not making big time paydays, Errol Spence, who's not like widely recognized like by casual fans in addition to boxing fans, Errol Spence, who who has the biggest fight in front of him, and doesn't seem to want to take that fight on for going on 4 years now, Errol Spence. And I had a little incident recently, and I kind of came out of my face too, like, because I actually had conversations with this clown ass dude before, who I had the incident with, because I'm just casually strolling along and watching a channel that I enjoy, Cali Enigma, and I'm saying argument on my behalf within the chats, like that counter like the whole like fact that Errol Spence is like this demigod or something. I'm just I was just basically stating that Errol Spence has accomplished not so much, and this one clown who I made a video about in the past before, but he's a bird, like he a liar. He actually jumped on like to say lies, and I said I was gonna release a phone call that I had with him. I guess I'll do that another time, like, but it's kind of corny, like to do it now, I guess, because it's not like merited. But he's corny, like. But the reason that he jumped on, like, one, I think he thought he was comfortable amongst a lot of people that are dick riding Errol Spence to try to throw like darts in my direction, and that other people were gonna jump on like with him and like crowd on me, like I give a shit. It's fucking YouTube, like and it's negative comments in the chat, like big fucking deal. Like I'll live another day, God forbid, like but the catalyst as to why said channel like probably got emotional was maybe a little bit of a distaste for me personally, but also like the fact that a lot of these people or a lot of these channels or content creators want to like run the wool over your eyes and make it seem like Errol Spence is doing these unearthly things. Like the whole welterweight division right now is trash. If Bud Crawford ran through the welterweight division, and I wouldn't be saying like oh, like Bud Crawford has done so much, and I like as far as like with like there was I think it was like Blue Blood Sports like reported the same Roy Jones story, and like within the comments, like people were saying, oh well, Roy Jones ain't mentioning Bud Crawford fighting Sean Porter. Nobody wants to see that fight. The only people that want to see that fight are people that are defending Errol Spence. Like Seriously, Bud Crawford is gonna run through Sean Porter like it's nobody's business. I could see Bud Crawford. I mean, it is gonna be a good. Maybe it's a better fight than what he's had recently. Sure, or better competition. I give you that, but it's not like leaps and bounds better. I mean, like Kell Brook literally beat the dude. I mean, has Kell Brook lost a step? You could say that, but has Sean Porter maybe lost a step after taking several losses, after a bad performance against Ugas? You can make that contention too. But if he runs through Sean Porter, the only credit that he'll get is if he knocks him out, which he probably would do anyway. And even then, there's gonna be a bunch of detractors that say like, now he gotta fight Ugas or some shit. Like the fight that should be in the tip of your tongue should only be Errol Spence and Bud Crawford, period. But a lot of these dudes that are like very emotional and like butthurt, if God forbid you mention Errol Spence, they want to tell you otherwise. Never in the history of boxing have I seen a fight that was right on the precipice to get made where they try to throw out another opponent before that fights get made. The only time that happened, I was fully in line saying that person was ducking it. That was AJ when they were trying to throw Dillian White in front of Wilder to fight first to then fight AJ. And I thought that was ducking shit by AJ. And I'm saying the same thing now, except that Sean Porter is a nobody, like really, and he's not a big seller like that. Like it's not like this has to happen. Like what is Sean Porter saying like to merit that fight or that makes you want to see that fight? He's not talking mad shit about Bud Crawford and saying that he wants that fight. He's actually backtracking and saying that the possibility of a Bud Crawford fight is not there at this present time. Ooh, so now but that's not covered by all these channels, and that kind of and the thing is too, as far as these channels go, I used to like a lot of them, but it's this topic in general has kind of like soured me on almost all of them. I understand if you think that me as somebody who no longer like respects a lot of the accomplishments of Errol Spence. If you want to hype me up on that, sure. I mean, take your best shot. It's not like I just started watching boxing yesterday, but at the end of the day, you can't tell me, I mean, like that it's leaps and bounds, or a quarter of what Roy Jones has accomplished or what Andre Ward has accomplished. And even though, when you speak about Andre Ward, there was still a lot more that could have been done, I guess, and Errol Spence hasn't done half of what Andre Ward has done. Clear out a division within a tournament scenario. Move up in weight and fight the best in that division. I mean, what has Errol Spence done? I mean, like Danny Garcia. Who is Danny Garcia beat at 147? That matters. His best win is against Guerrero, and Guerrero was already washed at that point. There's nobody else. I mean, Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios wasn't a 147 guy, and he was washed too. What's Porter accomplished besides beating Danny Garcia? Getting beat by a bunch of other people? The whole 147 sucks, to be frank. There's only one fight to be made there, and it seems like all these guys that are like Errol Spence defenders, they talk about every fight but that. And they're taking that tune from Errol Spence himself, who's made it clear that he doesn't want that fight. If Errol Spence said that, he wants that fight right now, or he wants that fight, and Bud Crawford were the one that were fronting, would these guys say, oh, well, Sean Porter got to fight Errol Spence, or Bud Crawford? If it were Errol Spence looking for that fight, or the other way around, would they say, oh, well, no, well, before that happens, though, Bud Crawford got to fight Sean Porter? Absolutely not. Nobody in the history of mankind has said, I got to see a Sean Porter fight this weekend. Sean Porter's not top billing like that, man. Come on. He dominates zero market, no market. He doesn't have a Las Vegas market where he resides, and he doesn't have an Ohio market where he's from. And that's not the be-all, end-all, be-all, but he's just not a top seller like that. He's not a riveting fighter like that. But these dudes, like I said before, I've been listening to a lot of content like which is more like predominantly like black content creators, if you will. And I was 100% like in tune. Like this was before Errol Spence was fought in the Olympics, even. I mean, or after that fight in the Olympics, like or after that match that he had right after the Olympic on NBC. Way before that. This is like way before like during like probably pre AJ fighting Klitschko. Yeah, actually way before that. But the thing is, like with this topic in general, I mean, like it soured me on a lot of these content creators. They're all fronting. Like a lot of them are fronting. There's only a couple of them that are keeping it real, like with on these issues. You know, Lowe's Dawkins, you know, uh, Michael Johnson, Boxing Talk and More, um, CJ Goodfella, fucking Blood Boxing, Lion Killer, you know, and these are people that I was listening to in the past, but that haven't deviated like as far as like what their standards are like with these fights. And the thing is too that a lot of these guys that I'm not mentioning, or a lot of these channels that have like started like to suck, they probably know 3 times more boxing than I do. Or they've been fans like longer than I have. Like they watch a lot of fights every week. I don't watch fights every week no more. Hells no. Like I got better shit to do. But like those guys have more of a fervor like for boxing than I do presently. And they've probably been bigger boxing fans than I have, like, in the past too. I'm not gonna front. There's been times that I stopped watching boxing because of my situation for a couple years. You know what I'm saying? Like but some of these guys that I've like soured on, you know, they're acting like brand new. Like they don't know what the fuck is going on or how these things like play out or how fights are supposed to get made. Like now all of a sudden they're into boxing politic and like, you know, making new terms like, he's doing all the heavy lifting or he's on the wrong side of the street or call Al. Like, come on, man. Like this shit is corny as fuck, man. And a lot of this stuff is emanating from Errol Spence's front. But you're gonna flip the script because your boy's a puss. Like, come on. If my boy's a puss, my boy's a puss. But that doesn't mean that you gotta like switch up you like the way you are and then make everybody think that they're wrong for thinking the way they're thinking. And a lot like and that this is not like aimed at like anybody who like all. There's a lot of herbs that like the dude that I mentioned. Actually, I put his name out. Is that cornball I am your world? Like those dudes don't watch boxing. Those dudes started watching boxing YouTube and like started like making friends on boxing YouTube chats and like they have no friends in the outside world in real life. Like those are herbs. Like I'm not talking about them. Like or I'm not talking about no Johnny Come Lately. Started watching boxing in 2016. Like no, talking about like official tissue. Like you know people that thought that boxing was whack like in 2005. Meanwhile, we didn't know that we were in a golden age like compared to what's happening now. Like 2000 to 2010 was 9 times better than what we're going through right now. Right now, I mean, we're at a point where with boxing, we may never see boxers fight boxers like again in 10 years. It's gonna be like celebrities fighting celebrities and retired boxers fighting celebrities or retired boxers fighting each other. And I don't get pumped up about that. I mean, a lot of people that like channels that I like or people that I know were hyped up about Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, and I love Mike Tyson and Roy Jones in their day, but the fact is that those fights like take the attention off fights that should be made. And I think that might like that's almost like a natural thing because like those fights that should be made aren't happening anyway. So a lot of these guys could sneak into the back door and like take all the fanfare away from these guys, these so-called boxers that are fighting now. You know, so if you're a boxer in 5 years from now, like, you may see 10 times more money fighting, Carrot Top or Coolio or Idris Elba than you will fighting another boxer. And is that good? Or, like, just because they're making more money than, like, fighting actors or some shit, or rappers, does that, like, me as a boxing fan, does that do anything for me? Absolutely not. That's corny as fuck. I don't want to see, like, the way boxing is going now. It's at its death now. You know, and if you just started watching boxing in 2016, 2017, I mean, then that may not mean shit to you. But or if you get happy because, like, your favorite boxer buys a car or some shit, or dances with other dudes in clubs, or, oh, these dudes should be shining, man. Like, like, that shit don't mean nothing to me, man. Like, 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 and I don't hate on nobody's hustle, but boxing to me is an institution that has been heavily corroded, like a time, like, and could and I look at the culprits as far as the fighters go, who are bringing it into it, who are bringing boxing into a deathbed. And you gotta ask yourself, is Bud Crawford doing his part? Like, I mean, could he be doing more? Yes. But does Bud Crawford go in there and give you a dog effort every time? And does Bud Crawford seem like he's fronting, going to Errol Spence's fights, and, like, Errol Spence acting like a little bitch and saying, like, oh, what's he doing here? Like a little herb? You know, so who's the one messing up boxing in that predicament? And, say what if they told Errol Spence to go fight some rapper, like, he'd do it yesterday. Because Errol Spence is a nobody at the end of the day. And not saying that Bud Crawford is a big to do, but Bud Crawford is a boxer's boxer, where Errol Spence is a world star boxer. But let me know what you guys think. With that, I'm out.